Okay, hello everyone. Hello. I'll call you later. Is it live? No. Where is the link? Yeah, hello everyone. So, am I audible? Okay, dear students, am I audible? So, you can just reply here. Okay, I'm audible. So, I have checked it myself. So, now today is the first session for your MDS session classes, and I would like to start with a very important topic, that is the functional column and the cranial nerve nuclei. So, I think this is the hello everyone. Yeah, hello everyone. So this is a very important topic, and I want that your concept should also be cleared regarding this topic. Why? Because many of the students, when I am taking the session, many students come with a not understanding the functional component and the cranial nerve nuclei. So if I talk about the functional component and cranial nerve nuclei, it is very important that you should be also knowing the embryology part. So for the proper understanding of functional component and cranial nerve nuclei, I would like to start with the embryological aspect. So if I am talking about the cranial nerve, so I will start with that. Before that, I just want you to know, everyone must be knowing how many pairs of cranial nerve is there in our body. So you can reply in the message box, how many pairs of cranial nerve is there in our body. So I think most of you must be knowing. So we use a Roman letters for the cranial nerve. So we know that there are 12 pairs of cranial nerve. Okay. So in this 12 pairs of cranial nerve, actually, first to second is attached to the forebrain. Third, fourth is attached to the midbrain. The fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth is attached to the pons. If I talk about the emergence of sixth, seventh, and eighth cranial nerve, it is from the pontomedullary junction. Yeah, Jyoti, you are right. 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th is attached to the medulla oblongata. So, before exactly starting the embryological fact, I want everybody to know that there are 12 pairs of cranial nerve, and we have to know about the attachment of the cranial nerve to the brain part. So what does it mean? It means that only the first and second cranial nerves are attached to the forebrain. Rest all cranial nerves are emerging out from the parts of brain stem. Got it, my dear students? Now let's talk about the embryology. Now this is the image where we can see the inferior view of the brain. Okay, now in this inferior view of the brain, I just want you to mark the cranial nerve. So what we can see here, we can see the olfactory tract, the olfactory nerves, and we can see the optic one. Okay, so as I told you, only the first, second cranial nerves are emerging. That means olfactory and the optic, only the first and second. The first cranial nerve is related to the function of smell, the second is for the vision. So these two cranial nerves are emerging out from the forebrain. Rest all cranial nerves, so we have got the trochlear one, the oculomotor one, which is emerging out from the parts of the midbrain. We have got the trigeminal nerve, the abducen, the facial, the vestibulocochlear nerve, the eighth cranial nerve, which is attached to the pons, and the lower four cranial, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th are emerging out from the medulla oblongata. Now we have done with this. Now, as I told you, if you are understanding, if everybody is understanding the cranial nerve nuclei and the functional component, it becomes very easy to understand each cranial nerve. So for that understanding, it is important that we should be aware of the embryological aspect. So what happens when I'm talking about the embryology part during the development of neural tube? Okay, so functional component of cranial nerve can be better understood if we are knowing the development. So I would like to explain the embryology part, and then we will proceed with the rest of it. So during the development of neural tube, its wall is made of three layers. So if I'm talking about the development of spinal cord, we know that the neural tube is formed and then the formation of central nervous system takes place. So during the early process of neural tube development, so what does the word NT means? Neural tube development. So when the neural tube was developing, the neural tube development was occurring, its wall are made of how many layers? Its walls are made of 3 layers. So if I am elaborating it, it is made of 3 layers A, B, C, and the innermost layer is also called as inner ependymal layer. If I am talking of the middle layer is called as the mantle layer. And if I am talking about the outer layer, it is the outer marginal layer. Outer marginal layer. Now, here I want you to know that when I'm talking about the mantle layer and the marginal layer, it's very important for you to understand. So, when I'm talking about this mantle layer and marginal layer, the mantle layer is signifying the gray matter and the marginal layer is basically made of white matter. So, you should also note down the mantle layer is corresponding layer is made of gray matter. It is representing the gray matter part and the marginal layer is representing the white matter. Okay. If any of the student is not understanding anything, please let me know. Okay. So I will soon repeat it. Now what happens with the further development? What happens? The mantle layer differentiate into dorsal and the ventral part. So dorsal part is called as the alar lamina and the ventral is called as basal lamina. Okay, so basically after that with the soon further development, the mantle layer differentiate. When the development of neural tube is subsequently taking place, so उसके बाद क्या होता है? Subsequently जब neural tube develop हो रहा है, so soon the mantle layer differentiates into dorsal and ventral part. So here the dorsal part is called as the alar lamina. And my dear students, please note down the dorsal alar lamina is the sensory component and the ventral basal lamina is the motor component. And these two part of the mantle layer, which is basically, if I am talking about the mantle layer, वो किस component से बना था? My dear students, mantle layer was formed of the gray matter and the gray matter is differentiated into two parts, ventral and dorsal. Dorsal means posterior, ventral means anterior. The anterior component is the motor, which is also called as the basal lamina, and the dorsal component is sensory, which is called as the alar lamina. And these two are separated. These two parts or these two components, you can say these two parts or components are partially separated by sulcus limitans. Sulcus limitans. Okay. So for this topic, I will go slightly slow because I want everybody to understand the concept of cranial nerve nuclei and functional component. So till now, the embryology part, what all things we have studied during the early development of neural tube, the walls of the neural tube was made of how many layers? From outside to inside, 3 layers, the ependymal, the middle mantle layer and the outer marginal layer. The mantle layer is made of the gray matter. It is representing the gray matter. The marginal layer is representing the white matter. And the mantle layer is soon differentiating into two components separated by sulcus limitans. The groove which is partially separating it is called as sulcus limitans. The anterior part is called as basal lamina. The ventral basal lamina is motor and the dorsal one is the alar lamina, which is sensory. Now, with further development, what happens? The cells of each of these lamina, when the further development occurs, the cells of each of these lamina is arranged into two longitudinal columns, and that longitudinal column is somatic and visceral. So how many functional components are now formed? 4 functional components. Okay. Now here the cells of, please write down, the cells of each of these laminas. Which two lamina, my dear students? The alar and the basal get arranged into two longitudinal column. Two longitudinal column. And what is that longitudinal column? The somatic and the visceral. Which one? It forms the somatic one and it forms the visceral one. Okay. Now, these two columns are arranged, and in these two columns, the somatic and the visceral will lie close to the sulcus limitus. So, ultimately in the lateral wall, in the lateral wall of neural tube will subsequently, which will form the spinal cord, will form 4 functional components. How many? The 2 will form in the alar lamina and 2 functional column will form in the basal lamina. So together, how many functional components are till now formed? So till now there is formation of 4 functional columns. So please write down that name: first, second, third and fourth. General somatic efferent, general visceral efferent, general visceral afferent and general somatic afferent. Now, as I told you, the 4 functional component or column is formed in which the visceral will lie, is lying close to sulcus limitus. So, till now, in the lateral wall of the neural tube, we have got the formation of 4 functional columns. General somatic efferent, column. General visceral efferent column. General visceral afferent column and general somatic afferent column. So we have got this. Now, after that, what happens? So we will also, all of you, please keep color pencils with you, because after this explanation, I will draw a diagram which will help you to better understand the 7 functional column formation. Now, after that, what happens? In the second stage of development, what happens? The hindbrain is forming, and because of the development of hindbrain and formation of hindbrain, 2 important events takes place. What is that event? The neural tube widens. The developing neural tube will widen to form the 4th ventricle, and as a result, what happened? The alar lamina are splashed like a opening of book. For example, if I take something, for example, firstly the neural tube was a tube-like structure, rounded. Now the 4th ventricle is formed, and now the ventricle is formed. So what happens? This will lead to the alar lamina opening like this. Okay, now the tube was like this, and close to it the hindbrain is formed, and because of the formation of hindbrain, there is also formation of a cavity, 4th ventricle, and now the alar lamina was actually arranged. Firstly, antero-posterior distribution was there in the walls. Now it has distributed like medial to lateral, and this happens because of the opening of alar lamina. Okay, so I will make a diagram for it, then it will be more clear to it. So subsequently, what happens? There is directional change. Okay, because of the alar lamina, which widens like the opening of a book, the functional columns is undergoing a directional changes from ventral dorsal arrangement to that of mediolateral arrangement. What happens? The ventral dorsal arrangement has now become mediolateral arrangement. So this is also very important. Got it? Everyone, have you understood till now? In the second, so this was the first stage of development. What I told you, there is second developmental stage. The neural tube is widening. And the arrangement of the of the functional column, which was initially in the wall in the ventrodorsal arrangement, has, due to the opening of alar lamina, has become arrangement like medial to lateral. Okay, so this will be understood by making a diagram. So just make a diagram with me. Okay, so I would like to draw a transverse section of embryo showing the arrangement of functional component column and in the brainstem and also in the spinal cord. So let's see, please make an arrangement. So we are going to make it two diagrams here. So what I have made one cut section of the spinal cord, developing spinal cord. Okay. Now here I am. So these are the earlier 4 functional column which was formed. Okay. So as I told you earlier, just the formation of 4 functional column was there. And what was it? This was general somatic afferent. This is general visceral afferent. This is general visceral efferent, and this will be general somatic efferent. Now, as I told you always, now here somewhat there will be a groove, and that is denoting the groove for the sulcus. SL for sulcus limitans. So as I told you, close to sulcus limitans, there will be the location of the visceral efferents. Okay, so that is more clear when I will draw the. Now you can see the arrangement of the functional column is that of antero-posterior direction, and we have notes of different group. That's why I can't find it. Can anybody please tell me the page number? Okay, don't worry. So basically now I will draw another diagram where you can see the opening of the book will, like the opening of alar lamina opus. So here, so the one more diagram is here, and this is designating the location of sulcus limitans. Okay, so better you mark sulcus limitans in the other one. Okay. Now, as I told you, actually, in the second diagram, actually, I want you to show how the 7 functional columns are formed. So, and after the development, what happens? An extra. So, what happens with further development? We know that 4 functional columns are formed. In between the visceral and somatic, there is the location of another special column, which is for innervation of pharyngeal apparatus structure. So that is called as special visceral component or branchial component. What is it called as? Special visceral or branchial component. Now an extra column appears in between the visceral and somatic. So together, how many functional columns are there? 6. Now other than that, an extra column is also formed, that is for sensation of special sensations, and that is called as special somatic afferent. So together there is 7 functional columns formed. So now we will use this. So just make 7 functional columns. So 4 are sensory and the 3 are motor. Okay. So these 3 are motor and these are sensory. Now, how to understand? Firstly, there was just the formation of 4 functional columns. But in between the general somatic afferent and general visceral afferent, there is special visceral afferent. So this is special visceral afferent in between general visceral afferent and general somatic afferent. And as I told you, in the most lateral part, there is addition of special somatic afferent for the sensory function like hearing and equilibrium. So these all are sensory. These all are sensory. And these all are motor. So as I told you, we have got general, visceral, efferent, and this is general, somatic, efferent, and in between we have got special, visceral, efferent. So these three are motor. These three are motor. So now it is clear to you that total we have got how many functional component column? We have got 7 functional column. Okay, so with further development, okay, there was initially 4 and an extra special column appears in between the somatic and the visceral in both alar and the basal lamina to supply the derivatives of pharyngeal arches. And a part of this, an extra special column appears in the lateral most part of the alar lamina, which receive the sensation of hearing and balance, and this leads to the formation of special somatic afferent. So please write on this. So as I have already written till now, my dear students, are you understanding? Please let me know, are you understanding till now? Any doubt you can let me know. Till now it is clear how 7 functional columns are formed. If you want, you will forget, then please write on. With further development and with further development and formation of fourth ventricle, the anteroposterior arrangement of nerve column of nerve, NC for nerve column, and nerve column with further development and formation of fourth ventricle, anteroposterior arrangement of nerve column due to opening of alar lamina, the arrangement is now medial. The arrangement is now mediolateral. Now it has become mediolateral. That arrangement has become mediolateral. So this is one point. The another point is an extra special column appears between the somatic and visceral column. Visceral column. Okay. And one important point, and in the most lateral part of alar laminae, there is addition of special somatic afferent for the purpose of special sensation. So there is an special, so for the sensation of hearing and balance. So that means a total of how many functional column is formed? This results in the formation of 7 functional columns. This results in the formation of 7 functional columns. Okay, my dear students, now actually till this we have understood. Now further I want you to understand the arrangement of functional column and how the functional column will further break down into cranial nerve nuclei. So till now we are knowing that there are these 3 are the motor. I will use red color for the motor. General, somatic. So I can enlarge as general, somatic, efferent column, special, visceral, efferent column, general, visceral, efferent column, and then we have got general, visceral, afferent, and special, visceral, afferent, general, somatic, afferent, and special, somatic, afferent. Now total of 7 functional columns are formed. I want everybody to understand the cranial nerve nuclei in each of this functional column. So this is actually the table, and I would like to explain each one of it. Okay, so let me first explain. So we'll come to this table, but I want you to understand each one of it. So let's come on to the first. So we will come to this table once again. I want you to, for example, when I'm talking about general somatic efferent, the first one, general somatic efferent. This is in this cranial nerve nuclei functional columns. This is important for supplying skeletal muscle of somatic origin. So if I'm talking about, so let's start with the first one, general somatic efferent. General somatic efferent functional column. So when I'm talking about general somatic efferent functional column, these nuclei are important for supplying, they supply skeleton muscles of somatic origin. Somatic origin. Now, in this categorization, if I'm talking about this first one, if I'm talking about this first general somatic efferent group of cranial nerve nuclei, in this category, we have got oculomotor cranial nerve nuclei, we have got trochlear cranial nerve nuclei, we have got abducens, and we have got hypoglossal cranial nerve nuclei. Now, what is important for you to understand? If I am talking about the most important, my dear students, if you have got any doubt, please let me know. Till this, everything is okay? You are understanding? Now, I want you to know that there are 4 cranial nerve nuclei which is important for supplying the skeleton muscle of somatic origin. The first in this category is oculomotor. Oculomotor nucleus. Now, when I am talking about the oculomotor nucleus, it's important for you to understand this oculomotor nucleus is situated. What is the location of oculomotor nucleus? It is situated in the midbrain at the level of superior colliculus, and its fibers supply all the extraocular muscle except lateral rectus and superior oblique muscle. So if I am talking about oculomotor nucleus, so which nucleus we are talking? Oculomotor nucleus. So this oculomotor nucleus is situated in midbrain. What is midbrain? The upper part of the brain stem. And what is the level? When we see the transverse section of the brain stem, we can see midbrain at the level of superior colliculus. So it is located at the level of superior colliculus. And its fibers, if I'm talking about oculomotor nucleus fibers, its fibers supplies all extraocular muscles except which 2 muscles, my dear students? Except LR6 and SO4. I have written in short form. Actually, LR6 means lateral rectus and SO4 means superior oblique muscle. Okay. Okay, dear. Today class will be till 9. Till 9 the class will be there. Okay. So the first nucleus of general somatic efferent is oculomotor nucleus located in the transverse section of midbrain. I will also show you the location. After explaining it, I will show you an image for the location of each and every cranial nerve nuclei. Now talking about the other one, the other is trochlear nucleus. Okay, so when I am talking about the trochlear nucleus, the trochlear nucleus is also located in the midbrain, and it is situated in the midbrain at the level of inferior colliculus. So it is situated in the midbrain, again in the midbrain at the level of inferior colliculus. Okay. And it supplies only one muscle, and the name of that muscle is superior oblique. It supplies one muscle. What is the name? Superior oblique muscle. It supplies superior oblique muscle. It supplies the superior oblique muscle. Got it? Now, in this category, general somatic efferent nuclei, we have got two more nuclei, abducent nucleus and that of hypoglossal nucleus. Yeah, Nami, the question which will be asked from this is the cranial nerve nuclei and which functional component is it included. So don't worry, after the completion of this topic, I have included 2-3 MCQs from the previous year examination, and I want you to solve that MCQ right itself when the session is going on. At the end of every session, you will also have MCQ test each day or the other day. But today, in after completing this, I will also try to solve along with you the previous year questions related from this topic. So we will do that. Don't worry, Nami. Firstly, understand the concepts. Now, continuing with this, that is general somatic efferent. As I told you, we have already talked about the two cranial nerve nuclei. What is the other one? The third one in this category is, we are talking about the first. The third is abducent nucleus. And when I'm talking about the abducent nucleus is also belonging to general somatic efferent functional component nuclei, and it is situated at which location? It is situated at the level of lower part of pons, and it supplies one muscle. What is the name of that muscle? That muscle is the lateral rectus muscle. So it is situated at the lower part of pons, and it supplies lateral rectus muscle. So done with this. Now, which is the fourth nucleus in this category? Hypoglossal cranial nerve nucleus. And this hypoglossal nucleus is actually an elongated nucleus. So which is the fourth one? Hypoglossal nucleus. This is the elongated nucleus, and this elongated nucleus, if I am talking about this elongated nucleus is located in medulla. So it is located in the medulla, and it is elongated nucleus. And actually, if I talk about, when we will talk about the brainstem part, so actually medulla oblongata, that is the lower part of the brainstem, is having two parts, open part and the closed part. So this elongated nucleus is included in both open, it is located in both open and the closed part of medulla oblongata. So it is located in both open and closed part of medulla oblongata. Medulla. Okay. It is located in both closed and open part of medulla. Now, it is, why it is important? So it supplies muscles of tongue. It supplies muscles of tongue. So we have finished with the general somatic efferent. Everyone understood general somatic efferent? Everyone? Can we go to special visceral efferent component now? Okay, please give me a thumbs up. Can we go to the we can go to, we have finished with the general somatic efferent. Now I am heading to special visceral efferent. So, which is also, the special visceral efferent is also called as, the branchial efferent. So, this is the second functional component, and this is actually, okay Nami and everyone. So this functional component or the column is having three cranial nerve nuclei. So it is having the cranial nerve nuclei, that is trigeminal motor cranial nerve nuclei, motor nucleus of facial nerve, and nucleus ambiguous. So one by one I am talking about each of this. So let's start with the first. Taste, Nami, taste, we will come to that. Okay, we will come to that sensation also. We'll come to that sensation also, dear. So we are talking about special visceral efferent. So till now we are in the efferent, motor component only. Okay. So special visceral efferent these what is the overall, if I am talking about all the cranial nerve nuclei, they supply striated muscle which has derived from the pharyngeal arches. So what is their role? So firstly I would want to write what is their function. So these supplies striated muscles derived from the pharyngeal or branchial arches. Pharyngeal arches. Okay. Now the cranial nerve nuclei in this category. So starting with the first is the motor nucleus of trigeminal nerve. Motor nucleus of trigeminal nerve. Motor nucleus of trigeminal nerve. Now, here, when I am talking about the motor nucleus of trigeminal nerve, it lies at the level of upper part of the pons and supplies muscles of mastication through mandibular nerve. So, motor nucleus of trigeminal nerve. Please write down the detail. Motor nucleus of trigeminal nerve lies at the upper pons. Upper pons means upper part of the pons and supplies muscles of mastication through mandibular nerve. Through which component? Through mandibular nerve. Got it? Now, if I am talking about the other parts, so we have also got the motor nucleus of facial nerve and nucleus ambiguous. So the second special visceral efferent, that is the second one. So in this, the next nuclei is nucleus of facial nerve. So when I am talking about the nucleus of facial nerve, it is located in the lower part of the pons and supplies muscles of facial expression. And so we have done with the second nucleus, cranial nerve nuclei in this category. And I would like everybody to understand the third cranial nerve nuclei of this category. So the third cranial nerve nuclei of this category is nucleus ambiguous. So please note down, nucleus ambiguous has got the spelling of W in it. And why it is called as ambiguous? Because in the transverse section of the medulla, it is not clearly visible. So it is called as ambiguous. Nucleus ambiguous lies in medulla, and actually it is also elongated. It is also elongated column. And it is also located in both the open. It is also located in both the open and closed part of medulla oblongata. So it is also located in open and closed part of medulla oblongata. Okay. Now it supplies, if I am talking about the muscle supplied by nucleus ambiguous, so basically it is supplying the muscle of pharynx, that is stylopharyngeus, and the muscle of soft palate, pharynx and larynx. So it supplies stylopharyngeus muscle via ninth cranial nerve and muscles of soft palate, pharynx and larynx, pharynx and larynx. So these muscles are supplied by which nerve? So it is supplied by the vagus nerve, the 10th cranial nerve, along with cranial part of accessory. Cranial part of accessory means 11th cranial nerve. So yes, we have done. Okay, so here we have done with the functional component, or that is the special visceral efferent, and we are now knowing about the three cranial nerve nuclei in this category. Now we have done with this. Now I would, before proceeding to the next one, I just want everybody to see this image. Actually, this is an image. This is a image in which you can appreciate the location of few cranial nerve nuclei. So we have finished with the oculomotor and the trochlear. So you can see here the oculomotor nucleus is located in the midbrain, the trochlear nucleus. So you can see the oculomotor nucleus at the level of superior colliculus, the trochlear at the level of inferior colliculus in the midbrain, and the abducens nucleus is in the pons, and the hypoglossal nucleus is elongated nucleus, and it is located in the medulla oblongata. And we have now finished the special visceral efferent. So we have got the motor nucleus of trigeminal nerve. In the pons, we have got the motor nucleus, that is facial nucleus. In the pons, we have got nucleus ambiguous, which is an elongated nucleus in the medulla oblongata. So here red color is for the location of efferent cranial nerve nuclei, and blue color is for the afferent cranial nerve nuclei. So in this image, what I have written, and this is the cranial nerve nuclei location. Now I would like, there is another image in which also, in this image also, you can appreciate the location of cranial nerve nuclei. So here you can see oculomotor nucleus and trochlear nucleus shown with the red color, abducens nucleus in the pons, motor nucleus of facial nerve in the pons. We have got nucleus ambiguous in the medulla oblongata, and also we have seen the motor nucleus of trigeminal nerve in the medulla oblongata. Okay, now let's talk about the visceral. So till now everyone okay? Now I would go to the next category. So now I want you to know the cranial nerve nuclei. Now we will talk about the cranial nerve nuclei of general visceral efferent nuclei. Okay, so if I am talking about the general visceral efferent, is it okay everyone? I will just check my mobile whether you are having any doubt. So you can just let me know. Till now everyone is okay? Okay, so now nucleus, GPN. Okay, Hardeep, you can write down the full form. We are coming to, and we will discuss all of the cranial nerve nuclei. So now I am going to discuss the motor functional component, that is general visceral efferent nuclei. So understood. Now general visceral efferent nuclei give rise to preganglionic neurons, and this preganglionic neurons will relay in autonomic ganglions, and postganglionic fibers will supply smooth muscle and glands. So if I am talking about the overall function of these functional column, these nuclei give origin to preganglionic neurons that relay in peripheral autonomic ganglia. Postganglionic fibers arise from this ganglia and supplies smooth muscles and glands. Okay, this is the general function of the general visceral efferent nuclei. Now for better understanding, now this is very important, and this has been asked several times in the NEET exam and also in INICT exam. You have to now also understand, so it is very important that you should understand that which all cranial nerve nuclei is lying in this category. So we have got 5 cranial nerve nuclei under the general visceral efferent column. So they are Edinger-Westphal nucleus, lacrimatary nucleus, superior salivary nucleus, inferior salivary nucleus, and that of dorsal nucleus of vagus. So let's talk about this. So starting with the first cranial nerve nuclei. So we have got Edinger-Westphal nucleus. Edinger-Westphal nucleus. So it is important firstly to know the location and then the function. So if you are understanding cranial nerve nuclei functional column in detail, so the cranial nerves become very easy for you to understand. Now after that it becomes very easy for you to understand the next part. So when I am talking about Edinger-Westphal nucleus, it lies in the midbrain, close to oculomotor nucleus. And what is its function? So if I am talking of the fibers of Edinger-Westphal nucleus, the fibers pass in the ciliary ganglion, and from there the postganglionic fibers will supply sphincter pupillary and ciliaris muscle. So its fibers pass through ciliary ganglion, which is an important parasympathetic ganglion of head and neck region, and supplies two muscles. And what are they? So it is supplying two muscles, sphincter pupillary muscle and ciliary muscle. Ciliaris muscle. Okay, done with this. So don't worry, once the session is finished, the PDF notes will be provided to you. Now the second. So we have done with this. Now talking about the second general visceral efferent. So I am continuing with the general visceral efferent, and the second nucleus in this category is lacrimatary nucleus. Lacrimatary nucleus. So when I am talking about the lacrimatary nucleus, this is an important nucleus of general visceral efferent functional component, and it is located in the lower pons, and the location is close to superior salivary nucleus, and its fibers, if I'm talking about the fibers of lacrimatary nucleus, it will traverse through the facial nerve and its branch, that is GPN. What is the full form of GPN? Greater petrosal nerve, relay in PPG, pterygopalatine ganglion, and supply glands. Which all gland? It will supply lacrimal glands, nasal glands, palatal and pharyngeal glands. So lacrimatary nucleus located in the lower pons, its fibers pass through facial nerve and its branch, that is GPN. What is GPN? Greater petrosal nerve, relay in, and it will relay in PPG. What is PPG, my dear students? PPG is pterygopalatine ganglion. Greater petrosal nerve, pterygopalatine ganglion. Full form is pterygopalatine ganglion. Again, an important ganglion of parasympathetic ganglion in the head and neck region, and supplies pterygopalatine ganglion and supplies. So which all structure it supplies? So it will supply, and it supplies. So if you want to write, and supplies lacrimal gland, nasal gland, palatal gland, and pharyngeal gland. Done. Pharyngeal glands. So we have done with the lacrimatary nucleus. Now talking about the third cranial nerve nuclei in the category of general visceral efferent, we have got superior salivary nucleus. Superior salivary nucleus. So when I'm talking about the superior salivary nucleus, this nucleus is also located in pons. Where it is located? It is also located in pons. It is also located in lower part of pons, and it will send fibers via facial nerve and its coda tympanic branch to which gland? So it will supply to SMG and SL gland. What do you mean by SMG and SL gland? Sublingual and submandibular gland. What does it mean? Sublingual and submandibular gland. So now we are knowing the function of Edinger-Westphal nucleus. We are knowing the function of lacrimatory nucleus. We are knowing the function of superior salivary nucleus. Now, fourth nucleus of general visceral efferent. So talking about general visceral efferent component, and the fourth nucleus in this category is superior salivary nucleus. Superior salivary nucleus. Yes, Nami, you're right. Pterygopalatine ganglion. No. Nasolacrimal duct. No. Nasal glands. Okay. Now, if I am talking about superior salivary nucleus, again you have to know the location. And as I have told you, the superior salivary nucleus will be also located in the pons. So it is also located in the pons. Yeah, so superior salivary nucleus has been done. No, sorry. So we should move on with the next, that is inferior salivary nucleus. Sorry, we should write here inferior. So inferior salivary nucleus. So we have done superior salivary nucleus. Now I would like to explain you inferior salivary nucleus. So inferior salivary nucleus is also located inferior to, what is the location of inferior salivary nucleus? By the name. So by the name only it is known that it will be located lower to superior salivary nucleus in the lower pons, below superior salivary nucleus, and it sends fibers via glossopharyngeal nerve and innervate with structure. So these fibers will relay in otic ganglion, which is an important parasympathetic ganglion of head and neck region, and it supplies which gland? It supplies parotid gland. So it sends fibers via ninth cranial nerve, glossopharyngeal nerve to otic ganglion. To which ganglion? To otic ganglion. To otic ganglion. And supplies which gland? So it will supply parotid gland. Now, so this was first, second. So this was the first, second, third, and this was the fourth. Now talking about the fifth and the last cranial nerve nuclei of this category of the of this general visceral efferent. So in this category, we have got the last cranial nerve nuclei, that is the dorsal nucleus of vagus. That is dorsal nucleus of vagus. Dorsal nucleus of vagus. So let's talk about dorsal nucleus of vagus. Okay, so when I am talking about dorsal nucleus of vagus, it is an elongated column. It is again an elongated column which is residing in both open and closed part of medulla oblongata, and it gives fibers which pass through the vagus nerve, and it is distributed to thoracic and abdominal viscera. Now here you must be wondering the ganglia related to it is where located. So actually the ganglia concerned with the dorsal nucleus of vagus is located in the wall or nearby structure which it is supplying. That is, it is located in the walls of viscera to which it's supplied. So dorsal nucleus of vagus is an elongated column located in the medulla, both open and closed part, and its fibers traverse or pass through vagus nerve to thoracic and abdominal viscera. To thoracic and abdominal viscera. So done. So we have done with the, so we have finished with the general visceral efferent also. Now I just want you to show the location. So once again, come to this image where you can see the general visceral. So we are now coming up with the next category. So general visceral efferent, in this category we have got Edinger-Westphal nucleus close to oculomotor nucleus. We have got superior salivary, inferior salivary, and we have got dorsal nucleus of vagus. So you can see all the nuclei, motor nucleus has been shown. And so we have got Edinger-Westphal nucleus in the midbrain. We have got superior inferior salivary nucleus like cranial nucleus in the pons, and dorsal nucleus of vagus in the medulla. So here again, the same thing, different colors has been used. So you can see lacrimetry nucleus, superior, inferior, salivary nucleus. All these small nucleus are in the pons. Edinger-Westphal nucleus close to oculomotor nucleus, and dorsal nucleus of vagus is lying in the medulla. So we have done with all the motor or the efferent nuclei. Now we are left with the sensory one. So I just want you to tell fourth and fifth. So basically, if I am talking about fourth plus fifth functional column, that is the fourth one is general visceral afferent nucleus and the special visceral afferent nucleus. So it's very easy for you to understand. If I am talking about both general visceral afferent nucleus and the special visceral afferent nucleus, both of these functional column is having just one nuclei related to it. So the one nucleus related to both of these functional component is called as nucleus of solitary tract or tractus solitarius. Only one nucleus is there in this category, and the name is nucleus of, the name of that nucleus is nucleus of solitary tract, or it is also called as tractus solitarius. And this is also located, this elongated nuclei is also located in the medulla, both open and closed part. Now I just want you to understand which all sensations and which is an important function of it. So when I'm talking about this cranial nerve nuclei, that is the nucleus of tractus solitarius, its lower part receives general visceral sensations through ninth cranial nerve from tonsil, pharynx, and the posterior part of the tongue, except the circumvallate papilla. Okay. No, posterior part of the tongue. So basically we are not, we will talk about the special visceral. I'm just talking about the general visceral sensation. So please write down in the lower part, it receives. So when I'm talking about tractus solitarius, it has got lower part and it has got an upper part. When I'm talking about the lower part of the tractus solitarius, it receives general visceral afferent sensation, and in the following matter, through which structure? So it is receiving general visceral afferent sensations through ninth cranial nerve, from tonsil, from pharynx, from part of tongue, posterior part of tongue, posterior tongue, carotid body and carotid sinus. So posterior tongue, carotid sinus, and carotid body. CS means carotid sinus and CV means carotid body. Okay. Now, through vagus nerve, through 10th means vagus nerve, it receives sensations from, through vagus nerve, it receives sensation from which all area? General visceral afferent fibers are received from which all area? So from pharynx, from larynx, from trachea, esophagus, and also from thoracic and abdominal viscera. Thoracic and abdominal viscera. So this was about general visceral sensation. This was about, so I will use blue color for it because this has become now sensory. General visceral afferent. Now talking about special visceral afferent. So the second component of this is special visceral afferent. So when I'm talking about special visceral afferent, this is also the cranial nerve nuclei corresponding is tractus solitarius. So write down in. So upper part of tractus solitarius receives sensation of taste. So what it receives? It receives sensation of taste. So I think few of the students was initially asking me this same thing. Now this is the special visceral afferent which is receiving the sensation of taste from which all area? So from anterior 2/3 of tongue and palate. So from anterior 2/3 of the tongue and palate via facial nerve. Via which structure? Via facial nerve. Also from posterior 1/3 of tongue plus circumvallate papilla via 9th cranial nerve, and from posterior most part of tongue and also from the epiglottis via 10th cranial nerve through internal laryngeal nerve. So actually that means general visceral afferent and special visceral afferent, both these parts, general visceral afferent and special visceral afferent, both has got one cranial nerve nuclei, that is tractus solitarius, nucleus of solitary tract. In the elongated nuclei, in the open and closed part, the upper part receives taste fibers, the lower part is receiving general sensations. Okay. Now we will come to general somatic afferent. Now we are left with just two cranial nerve nuclei. So when I am talking about general somatic afferent nuclei, they are related to trigeminal nerve. So general somatic afferent is related with trigeminal nerve, and I will also tell you about the sensation which are received by it. So these are related to trigeminal nerve. Okay. Now, so it has got three components. So basically when I'm talking about general somatic afferent cranial nerve nuclei, it is related to trigeminal nerve and it has got main or chief sensory nucleus of trigeminal nerve. It has got the mesencephalic nucleus of trigeminal nerve, the spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve. So let's write it. So it has got three component. First is main sensory nucleus of trigeminal nerve. So if I am talking about main sensory nucleus of trigeminal nerve, so when I am talking about main sensory nucleus of trigeminal nerve, the main sensory nucleus of trigeminal nerve is located in the upper part of pons. And if I am talking about chief, which is also called as main sensory nucleus of trigeminal nerve, it is mainly responsible for, the function is, it is mainly responsible for sense of touch. It is mainly responsible for sense of touch. Now, I would also like to talk about the second one, that is the spinal nucleus. So, second one is the spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve. So, when I am talking about spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve, so the spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve is also extending from the main sensory nucleus of trigeminal nerve. So I am again using blue color. Why? Because this is the sensory one. So spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve is also extending from the main sensory nucleus of trigeminal nerve. Descends, but it descends from main sensory nucleus of trigeminal nerve to upper two segments of spinal cord. Now actually it has got three parts. So it is having a part that is called as pars caudalis. It is having another part which is called as pars interpolaris. It is having a third part that is called as pars oralis. And when I am talking about pars caudalis, it receives impulses. It receives impulses of pain and temperature from forehead. Pain and temperature from which region? From forehead. When I am talking about pars interpolaris, it receives pain and temperature sensation from which area? From cheek area. And when I am talking about pars oralis, it receives a sensation of pain and temperature around which area? Around mouth area. So that means the main sensory nucleus of general somatic afferent is located in the pons, and it is receiving the sensation of touch. If I am talking about spinal, it is receiving the pain and temperature sensation. It is extending from the main sensory nucleus to that of upper two segments of the spinal cord. Now the third, this was asked in the INICT examination. The mesencephalic, if I am talking about the mesencephalic, Nami, if I am talking about the break, I will cover up the cranial nerve nuclei. I will give you a break of 5 minutes and then I will start. I will cover up this cranial nerve nuclei. Okay. So it is not according to the time. It will be according to the topic. So till cranial nerve nuclei and functional component I will finish. Then I will give you a break and then again I will start. The mesencephalic nucleus of trigeminal nerve. So the mesencephalic nucleus of trigeminal nerve if I am talking in the mesencephalic nucleus of trigeminal nerve, it extends upward. It extends upwards from main sensory nucleus into midbrain. And it receives sensation of proprioception. It receives the sensation of proprioception. So we are finished with this. And the last cranial nerve nuclei will be special somatic afferent. So I just want you to show the location of these nuclei. So come to the again this diagram. So we have already done the whole of the motor cranial nerve nuclei location. Now I would like to tell you about the cranial nerve nuclei which we have discussed. So one was nucleus of tractus solitarius. So can you see the elongated nucleus in the medulla? This is the nucleus of tractus solitarius. In this image also you can see the nucleus of tractus solitarius, and this is the nucleus of tractus solitarius which is located in the medulla oblongata in the both open and closed part. A nucleus of tractus solitarius is a common nucleus for general visceral afferent and special visceral afferent. Now we will talk about general somatic afferent. When I am talking about general somatic afferent, in this category we have got three nucleuses: main sensory, spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve, and mesencephalic nucleus of trigeminal nerve. So if I am talking about the main sensory nucleus of trigeminal nerve, as you can see, it is located in P for pons. What I told you, from the main sensory nucleus of trigeminal nerve, there is an extension below which is going till the spinal cord second cervical segment, which is spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve. From the main sensory nucleus of trigeminal nerve, there is an upward extension which is called mesencephalic nucleus of trigeminal nerve, and mesencephalic nucleus of trigeminal nerve is located in the midbrain, and it is important for proprioceptive sensation. The main sensory nucleus is most important for touch sensation, and that of spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve is important for pain and temperature sensation. Here also we can see the location of chief or main sensory nucleus of trigeminal nerve located in the pons. So what is it? It is pons. From the pons there is a lower extension which is called as the spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve, which is going till the level of second cervical segment of spinal cord, carrying the sensation of pain and temperature sensation. From the main sensory nucleus, we have got an upward extension of the nuclei, which is called mesencephalic nucleus of trigeminal nerve, which is extending in the midbrain and is important for proprioceptive sensation. Now, my dear students, now talking about the last component, that is special somatic afferent. Special somatic afferent has got a special sense to carry. It has got cochlear nuclei and vestibular nuclei. Cochlear nuclei is two, which is called as ventral and dorsal cochlear nuclei. And if I am talking about the vestibular nuclei, so in that category, vestibular nuclei, we have got four vestibular nuclei: superior, inferior, medial, and lateral vestibular nuclei. So we'll write about the last functional column, that is special somatic afferent. So when I'm talking about the special somatic afferent, when I'm talking about special somatic afferent nuclei, this is related to cochlear nuclei. The cochlear nuclei, if I'm talking about cochlear nuclei, this cochlear nuclei is two in number. So we have got ventral and dorsal cochlear nuclei. We have got ventral cochlear nuclei and we have got dorsal cochlear nuclei, which is related with the function of hearing. And if I'm talking about vestibular, this nuclei, vestibulocochlear nuclei, this is located in the location of the part of medulla and partially in the pons. So it is basically, this nuclei is related partly in the pons and partly in the medulla. If I'm talking about the other component, that is vestibular nuclei, the vestibular nuclei is having four components, which is inferior, superior, medial, lateral vestibular nuclei. And these both nuclei, if I'm talking about these both nuclei, they are related in partly in the pons and partly in the medulla. So that means these are located both in pons and medulla. And this has gotten in special. So cochlear nuclei is important for the function of hearing and vestibular nuclei is important for the function of balance. So my dear students, we are done with all the cranial nerve nuclei. So we have finished with the topic of functional component and cranial nerve nuclei. I want to solve few MCQs. So in the initial part of the session, few of the students was asking me, ma'am, which type of questions will come from the functional component and cranial nerve nuclei. So before going into the discussion of individual cranial nerve, that is 12 pairs of cranial nerve, I want to discuss few of the MCQs related with the topic of functional component column and cranial nerve nuclei. So can I go with this? Then I will give you a break of 5 minutes. So let's solve few of the MCQs so that you can understand which type of questions are asked in the previous year of examination. Are you ready, my dear students? Can we go? Everyone? Are you ready? So can we go with that details? Nami, Jyoti, Deep, Chandra, okay, ma'am, okay, Dr. Aditi Agarwal, okay, Ruchika, okay, everyone, okay, Jyoti. So let's solve. So the first MCQ. So just now we have discussed, and I want you to, if it is wrong also, please mark your answer. No worry, because I will after the finishing of the chapter, I will discuss the PDF notes. Then you will study one time by yourself, and then you can solve the MCQs. All of the following cranial nerve contains somatic efferents except the dental word. And all of you, please mark the right answer, whether it is the seventh cranial nerve, the third, the fourth, and the sixth. All of the following cranial nerve contains somatic efferents except all of the following cranial nerve contains somatic efferents except So you can go through general somatic efferent. So which is not. So I got an answer from Pinu Nami A. So those who are marked 7th and A are absolutely correct. Yes, those who are marked A option and the 7th cranial nerve. Yes, 7th cranial nerve is not included in general somatic efferent. General somatic efferent column cranial nerve nucleus is oculomotor, trochlear and abducent. So absolutely a thumbs up goes for you. Absolutely a thumbs up goes for you. Very good, my dear students. Very good. Now coming to the next one. Can you, this is a match the absolutely correct answer, dear. Absolutely correct answer. Can we go with the match the following? All of the following pairs regarding the neural column and the associated nuclei is correct except, which is the wrong pair, dear? Which is the wrong pair? Hypoglossal nucleus is general somatic efferent. Nucleus ambiguous is special visceral efferent. Dorsal nucleus of vagus is general visceral afferent. Nucleus of tractus solitarius is special visceral afferent. Which is wrong? Question number second, which is the wrong pair? Question number second, which is the wrong pair? So take a few seconds and please mark the right answer. Absolutely correct answer is coming up. Dorsal nucleus of vagus is absolutely correct. Yes, this is not afferent. It should be efferent. It should be general visceral efferent. So it should be general visceral efferent. It is motor. It is motor. It is efferent. It is not the afferent one. So again, a thumbs up goes for Aditi, Khushi, Dr. Samira, Ankur, Neelu, Mehra, Dr. Ruchika, Pinnu, everyone is marking it right. So again, a thumbs up goes for you. So means everyone has understood. So we have not yet started the cranial nerve, but you are able to solve the cranial nerve nuclei questions. Let's go into the third one. Okay, my dear students, can we solve the third MCQs? Actually, this was a request of the student to solve the previous year MCQs related to this topic. So which of the following cranial nerve is associated with special somatic afferent nuclei? 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th. Special somatic afferent. Special somatic afferent. Special somatic afferent is a function of which cranial nerve nuclei? We are talking about special somatic, not special visceral or general visceral. We are talking about special somatic. Okay, don't go with the others' answer. Take your time. It's a special somatic afferent. Special somatic afferent. Okay. Special somatic, just see here, I told you special somatic is related to vestibulocochlear nerve. So if I am talking about vestibulocochlear nerve, what will be the right answer here? The right answer is, so with this I am ending here the last question and then I will give you 5 minutes of break and then we will start. Which of the following cranial nerve is associated with special somatic afferent? Vestibulocochlear nerve, dear, it is the vestibulocochlear nerve, the 8th cranial nerve. It is the 8th cranial nerve. The last functional component related with the 8th cranial nerve. So we have got D as the right answer. So yes, my dear students, now I will give you a break and then we can start the session. So I'm giving you a break of 5 minutes. Is it okay? It's the D. Those who have given D has given the right answer. Okay. So I'm giving you a 5 minutes of break. 5 minutes of break.